I am so happy to report that this book is both wonderful and charming. I have said many times on the channel that I just have these real grumpy old man vibes, and I don't really jive with a lot of funny books, especially if the book is sold to me as, you will love it, it's just so funny. I don't know what it is. I don't click with humor in the written form. It just doesn't really work for me most of the time. And I firmly stepped outside of my comfort zone twice this month, and all I will say about the first one is that it did not go very well. So if this one hadn't have gone well, I don't know what I would have done. But what I can say is it did go well, and thank God for Terry Pratchett. Today we're talking about Guards by Terry Pratchett. Disc book 8 or something like that in the Discworld series. I don't know. From what I understand, you can go about them in mostly any order. Some of them do have orders, and some of them fit into the City Watch section and this section and the witches, or I don't know. I just know that some people said this is the best place to start. Some people in the comment section said that's a very strange place to start. I don't know. I do know that I loved it. It was wonderful. This is a fabulous book. This is like new news to nobody but me. So I mean, sorry for that, but this is fabulous. I can't say enough, but I'm going to try. I am so sorry. I just got to jump in here really fast because I forgot to mention when I recorded this video that this book was the Patreon pick for the month of February. And this book was suggested for me to read by Rare. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Rare and thank you for suggesting this book. Now, back to the video. But what I can say is I will be ordering more of these for sure, and I will be using them. I don't know when I'll read them, but I'll pepper them throughout my read as palate cleansers, as they very well should be used. Also, I know I'm holding this up kind of like a maniac, but I will be ordering more of this edition. I don't know what this is, but this is just the most charming and just the cutest little book. There's no dust jacket, no nothing. It's just almost like a library. I think they're called the library binding or something like that. I don't know. I love it. It looks great. Cheap as hell for a hardback book, for a hardcover book. It was $18 or $19. Super cheap. Super affordable, I should say. Maybe not cheap's maybe not the right word. Anyway, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. There's probably no need to do a spoiler-free review. You could literally spoil every single aspect of the plot of this book, and it would ruin absolutely nothing. That is the kind of book that this is. The enjoyment factor of the book does not come from the plot, has literally nothing to do with that whatsoever. The enjoyment of the book comes 100% from the comedy and the situations and the dialogue, and I could literally tell you beat for beat what was going to happen, and you would lose none of the enjoyment from reading this book. I fully, truly believe that. But essentially, the plot kind of revolves around, we are in this medieval-ish town, we'll get to that, and there are suddenly these dragons appear and start terrorizing the town for the first time in centuries, I think. I don't know the last time a dragon was spotted, but it's been a very long time. The city is protected by the guards, which are mostly incompetent, blundering idiots, and now they are going to get a new recruit named Carrot, who is shockingly overqualified for the position, and he's like this massive, muscular brute of a man who, I think it said, when he flexes his shoulders, other muscles have to get out of the way first. You're just like, what? But he was also raised out in the country by dwarves, so he himself thinks he's a dwarf, and at no point did he realize that, he's a human, doesn't look or act or anything like a dwarf, but that's okay. Anyway, he comes and he joins the guards, which makes no sense because, once again, overqualified for the position, and insanity ensues from there. And this is genuinely hilarious. I've said many times on the channel that I read physically at night, but then if I'm doing something, I'll put my little earbuds or headphones on. So I put my earbuds in the morning to take my morning walk through the neighborhood, and I probably looked like a crazy person because I would just burst out into laughter for seemingly no reason as I'm just walking down the street. It was kind of embarrassing. And it's kind of like British humor dialed to 11, which is kind of a silly thing to say, considering that Terry Pratchett is British. Of course, it's going to be British humor. But I just wanted to point it out that it is British humor, which has a strikingly different tone than, say, American humor does, which I tend to like a lot more than I enjoy American humor. American humor just seems to be so much more slapstick, and British humor is just a little bit darker, a little bit more cynical at its core, which just tickles my funny bone more. It's just so judgmental, sometimes judgmental of, say, the government or politics or the system. It will make a joke out of the politics and the systems in place in this town, and it is glorious. Like, for example, the fact that there's a Thieves Guild, and the Thieves Guild is a sanctioned thing underneath the government because, of course, I mean, there were thieves that were running around the town and they were stealing things, and they couldn't have that because it was causing chaos. So what they did was they created a Thieves Guild, and now there is a guild that tightly and strictly manages the thieving in this city. And on top of that, there is, at the beginning of the year, the government will decide an allotted amount to be thieved from the citizens for that annual year. They will hand that number down to the guild, and the guild will from there strictly manage the thieves to make sure that the allotted quota of thieving stuff from the citizens is not exceeded for that fiscal year. It's just ridiculous to its core. Then, of course, when Carrot comes in, not knowing the systems in place in this town, and being far overqualified for his job in the guards, he then realizes there's a Thieves Guild. So he goes out and he arrests the head of the Thieves Guild, which causes like an uproar in like the city council. And they're like, you better get this Carrot guy under control before he starts arresting assassins for fucking killing people. And it's, I don't know. I just love it. It's fabulous. It's stupid in just the right way. And that's not to say that there's not actual stupid jokes, like literally stupidity for the sake of being stupid, like when they tell the guards to initially go out when they first realize there's a dragon on the loose, and they tell them to go out searching for signs of dragons, and one of the guards literally just says, "You mean like piles of gold that have been laid on?" And it's just not that. Then there's like the city itself, and it just makes no sense. Like the when, where, how. I know we're on Discworld, so this is a completely made up land, made up planet, made up everything, but it just doesn't really make any sense. It seems like a relatively medieval land, medieval fantasy land, but then there is very modern sayings that they're dropping constantly, like Bob's your uncle. But then we have like the city guard and the dwarfs and the dragons. Once again, very medieval feeling. But then on the other side of that, we'll have references to something needing to be done as delicately as a robot arm picking up an egg. So there's robot arms in this world? Like the timing and the time frame doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like it just seems like such a hodgepodge that you can't really get an idea of when exactly what time period this is supposed to be taking place in. Once again, I am very well aware that this is a fantasy world and it's not really taking place in any real time frame. And on top of that, I am a huge fan of when somebody takes like a medieval setting and starts injecting like weird machines into it, and machinery and technology like Thief or Elder Scrolls. I know those are video game references, but stick with me here. But this story in particular really handles the level of machinery and technology and what all goes together, when, where, and how it all goes together, and whether or not it makes sense as to it actually fitting into the same world. And it treats all of that with a certain amount of irreverence that I thought was just so perfect for this particular world. Like, it doesn't matter, and he's aware of that. And that's because what does matter in this story is the fun and the humor and the sheer playfulness of it all. And he makes sure that that is front and center at all times in the story, never to be lost, never to be forgotten. He will sacrifice pretty much anything else. He'll sacrifice logic. He'll sacrifice character work. He'll sacrifice pretty much anything in service of fun and just enjoyability in the read. And then at the end of the day, dialogue is king. Most of the humor comes from, even if there's situational comedy, something in the situation is funny and you're supposed to be laughing at what's happening at that point in time, normally the dialogue will even outshine that. Somebody's going to let something slip out of their mouths, and it's going to be the stupidest thing you have ever heard, or the most ridiculous thing that they could possibly say in that particular situation. I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but by far the funniest thing about this was just that constant running dialogue. It could have been a complete nobody that came out, some side character that didn't even get a name, and he's going to say some stupid shit, and I'm going to love it every second of it. This was fabulous. I cannot express enough how much I enjoyed this, how much this was just such a pleasant surprise. I know that I was told over and over again how much I was going to enjoy this, how good this is, but I fully didn't understand how wonderful and charming and just how lovely of an experience the Discworld books were going to be. They're not going to win any awards for sophisticated storytelling or sophisticated world building or character development, none of that. But it's just a joy and a pleasure to read, and I love that. I'd give it a solid 8.5. I don't know if it's a 9. Maybe that's just because I'm not a comedy person, but damn it, if this, as far as comedy was concerned, this is a home run, and I think it's great. As always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.